Good morning, afternoon, or evening, everybody, depending on where you're joining us from. Apologies for the small technical delay we had. We were missing one of our speakers who is now with us, so we can get started. So welcome to today's webinar titled "Gray Zone Activities in Estonia and Japan: Threats and Responses," and hosted by the International Center for Defense and Security. And for those who are not familiar with us, the International Center for Defense and Security, or ICDS for short, I will use the short form from now on, is a think tank located in Estonia, specializing in foreign policy, security, and defense issues. My name is Tauno. I'm a research fellow at ICDS with focus on China and Chinese foreign interference, and I have the pleasure of moderating today's discussion. Before getting to the substance, I will also mention that today's discussion will be recorded and posted on the ICDS YouTube page for later viewing by those who were not able to join us today. But now to today's topic. As the global geopolitical landscape grows increasingly competitive, state actors such as China and Russia operate on a global scale, employing a broad array of gray zone or hybrid tactics, coercive measures that fall short of open conflict, but still go beyond traditional state-to-state relations. These include, for example, information manipulation campaigns, cyber operations, economic pressure, but also more or actual physical activities, as we will hear today. And to effectively counter these activities, it's critical not only to address them locally, but also examine how the same actors operate in different geographies. And this global perspective can provide early warnings about tactics that may not yet be evident in one's own region, and deepen our understanding of how these state actors deploy their sometimes well-known toolkits in different contexts. And knowledge and information sharing between like-minded partners is therefore critically important. And this is exactly what we will be doing today. Sharing views from Japan and Estonia, and we have 4 excellent speakers with us. I will introduce everybody shortly. Our first speaker will be Dr. Tomoko Nagasako from the Office of Cyber Domain Awareness Information Technology of the Information Technology Promotion Agency of Japan, and where she is a researcher. Prior to joining IPA in 2023, she was a research fellow at the Sasakawa Peace Foundation, and she received her PhD in informatics from Institute of Information Security in 2023. She holds an MA in informatics from Institute of Information Security and an MA and a BA in literature from the University of Tokyo. The next speaker will be Marek, Head of Security and Resilience Program at ICDS. Marek joined the ICDS in 2024 as a 20-year security and national defense veteran. His last position in the public sector was head of analysis at the government office's National Security and Defense Coordination Bureau in Estonia. He has also participated in several foreign operations in Iraq and Afghanistan. And Marek is an alumnus of the United States Army John F. Kennedy Special Warfare Center and School as a psychological operations officer. He holds a master's degree in European Union and international law from Tallinn University of Technology. Our third speaker will be Dr. Koichiro Komiyama, who is a senior researcher at the Keio Research Institute at SFC. His current interests are norms in cyberspace, confidence building, and capacity building for cybersecurity. He is also the director of the Global Coordination Division at the Japanese Computer Emergency Response Team. He has worked as a security analyst and led security information collection and publishing alerts and advisories. He holds a PhD in media and governance from Keio University. And the last, but by far not least, is Dr. Ivan Klyszcz, who is also a research fellow at ICDS. Dr. Klyszcz joined the ICDS as a research fellow in September 2022. His research is centered on issues of international security, namely great power competition, the grand strategy of major powers, and Russian foreign policy. Since 2019, he has published over 60 articles, including research reports, peer-reviewed articles, and policy memos. Previously, he was a full-time doctoral researcher at the University of Tartu, where he obtained his PhD in international relations. So these are the 4 speakers that we will hear in just a minute, and I'm personally very excited to learn from all of them. I will also say that each of those today's speakers will contribute a chapter on the topic they cover here today to a collective report that will be published next year. And after remarks by all speakers, we will have time for a Q&A where you will have the chance to ask questions. And please type your questions into the Q&A throughout all the sessions, and we will collect it from there. And before handing over to the first speaker, I also apologize for my voice because, as is the seasonal tradition in Estonia, I have caught a slight cold. But yes, Dr. Nagasako, please go ahead. Should I share my presentation?
Okay, thank you for introducing me, Mr. Tõhk. So I project my slides. Wait a moment. Okay, so please, okay, this for the start, please, this slide. Thank you. So let me please quick introduce myself. So I'm researcher, Information Technology Promotion Agency Japan, called shortly IPA, and my expertise information warfare, influence operation, and disinformation. So this topic, today's topic, is the center of my expertise. And these days, my research is focusing also these topics. So next slide, please. Okay, so this is today's agenda. Firstly, I describe the trends around Japan, and next, sorry. Okay, so and next one, next chapter is influence operation by China, and third section is about case of Japan attacked by Russia and China, and last chapter is strategic challenges against the influence operations and the disinformation. Next slide, please. Okay, thank you. So this is the result of my investigation to correct the case of disinformation of democratic process, such as election or referendum or some democratic demonstrations. And also, as for the case of Japan, I collect also the other events, like some international events or some current affairs. I think disinformation trends have started since 2016, just after the presidential election, U.S. presidential election in 2016, or official referendum in U.S. about regarding the leaving EU. So just after these points, around 4 years, Russia is the main actor of the influence operations, or using disinformation, like the map in the left side. However, these days in Asian countries, Chinese actor has become also the main actor of influence operations using disinformation, like this map, right side. So red star shows case by China, and purple stars shows case by Russia. So next slide, please. From my investigation, it shows expanding of China or Pacific area, and also disinformation from China and Russia is characterized not only by disinformation spread via social media, but also by cross-posting using local media and fake media, such as spam flash campaign by China or paper wall campaign by China. Next slide, please. Thank you. So this is the timeline of the influence operation by China. So top area, above area is about the case of influence operation allegedly by China, like some cases, Hong Kong pro-democracy demonstrations, or some Australian general election. And these days, we can see the case of Solomon Islands, also in Pacific area. And bottom area shows influence expansion of China and the state media. So this number shows that China and Chinese state media network has been very quickly and radically around this 10 years. Next slide, please. Thank you. So this is figure. This is image and the chart of the spam flash campaign. So this campaign is cross-platform campaign combating influence operation using 50 platforms and forums, including Facebook, Instagram, X, YouTube, TikTok, Reddit, Pinterest, Medium, and so on. So the actors is using the such platform closely and closely to spread the disinformation. And the next slide, please. Thank you. This is a high energy campaign. So the big company of the media called Hysun provides a positive energy package to use original media package to spread pro PRC content and narratives. So if you use this package, it is very easy to spread pro PRC narratives. Next, please. Thank you. This is image of the paper wall campaign using fake media as a case of Japan. as a case targeting Japan. So this campaign targeted mainly Asian countries, and Japan is the second nation in the ranking of paperwall websites. And right image is sample of the fake media called Fujiyama. So Fujiyama means the most famous Japanese mountain. And we don't have such media called Fujiyama News, but this name is very confused to make the people consider this is a real fake. This is real media, real news media. And next, please. Thank you. And this is a list of cases of Japan of influence campaigns, influence operations I collected. And this days attacked by Russia and China, but these days cases of cases by China is has been increasing year by year, and the topics is very very various one. So next, please. Thank you. And this is typical case of influence operations using topic of Fukushima nuclear power plant in 2023. So in social media in China and Japan, same disinformation spread. For example, about the color of water surface of the sea. So this disinformation says that due to the contamination of the polluted water by nuclear power plant, this water, the color of the surface of the sea became very darker one. Next slide, please. Thank you. And also, Chinese actors has used the real influence operation, not only by social media, but also the real activists or some protests. So left photo shows that pro-China activities in the Pacific, including the Solomon Islands government and the Fijian opposition, joined China in condemning the release of treated water from the Tokyo from Fukushima nuclear power plant. Next slide, please. Thank you. So this strategic narrative by China is characterized following these points. The ICDS and the wastewater release will contaminate Japanese seafood, making it unsafe to eat. And they are referring to treated water as nuclear release. Or some slide, please. Thank you. And also, this is and also like in case of hybrid cyber attacks using hybridizing disinformation operation and DDoS attacks. We called it hybrid cyber attacks because hybridizing information manipulation cyber attacks and obstructive or destructive cyber attacks like DDoS attacks. So this is the timeline. Firstly, a deepfake photo of a meeting between Prime Minister Kishida and Deputy Secretary of State Nuland is posted by a pro-Russian account on X with over 700,000 impressions, and also spread disinformation that the Japanese government accounted 50 trillion yen for the reconstruction or support to Ukraine. And after this disinformation campaign, we observed the no-name announcement of DDoS attacks. And just after the conference day of the Japan-Ukraine Conference for Promotion of Economic Growth and Reconstruction, we observed a lot of DDoS attacks by Russian activists called no names or some actors, and they attacked House of Representatives or some website of infrastructures. Next slide, please. And this case, we suspected this operation by Russian actor. So since 12 February, a deepfake image of Prime Minister Kishida appearing to be is spread by a pro-Russian account. And also the disinformation. However, by a Japanese diplomat, a foreign government pointed out to us that an influence operation had been conducted in Japan that would make us reject any support for Ukraine in advance of the Japan-Ukraine Economic Reconstruction Promotion Conference in Tokyo. Next slide, please. And also another case of hybrid cyber attacks by Russia, about the topic of NATO summit this year. So this situation is very similarly of the earlier one. Next slide, please. And I think this is disinformation strategy and the potential topics of the attack to Japan. So I think under the information warfare ability, like this slide. Sorry, this slide is too dense and we have a time limit. I introduce all topics, but some refer to only one or two examples. For example, or self-defense force is very controversial and but is a vulnerability for the disinformation attacks, or disaster. So disaster is very unique one for Japan. We have a lot of situation of earthquake or tsunami or typhoon. So I think this is also the vulnerable topics for us. And next, please. Thank you. And therefore, about the strategic challenges for Japan against disinformation campaigns. So the current situation is that national security strategy of Japan was reversed in 2022 and is the first to mention countermeasures for information and cognitive warfare. But there is a lack of a unified response to counter information warfare due to the implementation of policies and that are different for many ministries. and the separation of cybersecurity policy and the measures against information warfare and cognitive warfare. I think there is in Japanese government, there is a lot of ministries and agencies related to cyber warfare and information warfare, like this slide, as you can see. And next, please. And this is my policy recommendation. I think it has a 7-point. And this information, and also enhancing environment of cyber and media literacy education is also important. And these days, fact check is no more effective. So I think pre-banking is also important. And next, please. And this is last recommendation about regional strategic challenges. So combating the growing threat of information warfare requires regional cooperation, I believe. And this is main recommendation is free and open Indo-Pacific strategy called shortly FOIP versus disinfo initiative modeled on the EU versus disinfo, and also establishment of the Indo-Pacific hybrid COE modeled also in the EU. And I think also it is important to focusing on and cooperation with EU, including, of course, Estonia, because this country is a hotspot and cutting edge place of the disinformation threat by Russia. So I think there is a lot of good lesson for Japan, I think. Thank you for, next please. So thank you for your attention, and I'm sorry to over my time limitation due to some audio trouble and slide trouble, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this presentation. I found very interesting the kind of the trend map and also the highlight of use of private increasing use of private sector actors by China and also information laundering tactics. But we can discuss that later. So now I would hand over to Marek for his presentation, and I will put it on the screen myself.
Thank you, Tauno. Hello, everybody. My name is Marek, and Tauno already introduced me, so I will not waste any more time for that. You can put the next slide. So basically, I will speak about Russian sabotage, the physical activities they are doing, but we also understand that in Russian system, all these different domains are interconnected. So what Dr. Nagasako told just about this information, it's also used to amplify the results of the sabotage and sometimes to deny the answers what our societies will provide. I will use some examples from the Soviet sabotage doctrine because I think it's very good foresight what we can actually see right now and what we can expect from the future. I will cover some of the current activities Russia is doing in Europe and some possible responses to those activities. Next slide, please. So basically, before I start with the slide, I just want to add that actually we have seen the Russian sabotage activities way before the Russian full-scale war in the Ukraine. So Russia has had this practice of, for example, destroying the foreign support of current Russian adversaries. For example, in 2011, Russia's sabotage unit attacked a warehouse in Bulgaria, which contained ammunition for Georgia at that time. And in 2014, the same unit attacked warehouses in Czech Republic. At that time, it was ammunition for the Ukraine already. But also Russia has been very active to eliminate the Russian dissidents or oppositioners in foreign countries. The most famous example would be in 2018, the poisoning of Skripal in Great Britain. So, but let's continue with this slide, and the aim of Russian, let's say, hybrid activities, but also the sabotage activities is to occupy our society's resources first, then secondly to observe the responses of officials, of course creating the confusion in the society and creating this level of anxiety will lead to the main purpose of Russian activities right now in Europe or in Western countries is that they want to reduce the support to Ukraine. And under the line here are actually the examples of Russian aims from the Soviet Union sabotage doctrine, and we see that actually they are pretty much correlating. So Russia or Soviet Union back then wanted to demoralize the government's resolve to pursue different policies against Soviet Union and undermine public support for them. So it means that actually Soviet Union wanted to create division in the societies to support governments. Also, one of the aims was generate divisions within NATO, and lastly, it was thought to be an effective way to cause economic harm or undermine military capabilities. Next slide, please. So when we are speaking about Russian modus operandi in sabotage activities, then we see that Russia is using Russian diaspora already located in Western countries. The reason for that is, of course, the common cultural background and also the language understanding. So it's not only the Russian diaspora per se, but it's also all the nationalities who are speaking Russian language. They can be Belarusians, they can be some citizens from the Central East countries, but also in from Ukraine. And although Soviet Union has used crime or criminal groups before, then I would say that Russia has elevated this use to the next level. And right now we see that Russia is using more and more criminal groups to execute different sabotage acts in Europe. And what is different from the Soviet Union times and current times is the use of social media, of course. Russia is using mainly, or Russian services are using mainly the Telegram app, and this provides kind of let's say secrecy for the services, because the recruiters don't have to identify themselves, and it also creates the possibilities to pay them in different ways, mostly in crypto currencies. And if we are comparing this to the Soviet Union doctrine, then we see that actually it was also meant that Russian intelligence officers are recruiting external contractors to do the last dirty work. And what is different again is that for the Soviet Union doctrine, the quality of those executors was quite important, but because of the full-scale invasion to the Ukraine, many of Russian diplomats who were working under diplomatic cover were expelled from different Western countries, and the ability to recruit and to run the agents in those countries is quite significantly reduced. So they are willing to reduce also the quality of those executors, and this can of course lead to the catastrophic consequences, because if people are willing to take some demolition materials without having proper knowledge about how to handle those, it can lead to the civilian or excessive civilian casualties. Next slide, please. So just some examples, because there really have been hundreds of sabotage acts in Europe over the last 2 years. And from Estonia, example of damaging the personal car of Estonian Interior Minister and also one of the journalists' cars was happening at the beginning of this year. Estonian Internal Security Service arrested the group of individuals, and they had more bigger plans for actually to do even more sabotage acts. But also defacing monuments in Estonia has been a long tradition from the Russian special services side. There have been some assassinations in Europe actually, and one example was the Russian pilot who defected and he was killed in the Spain at the beginning of this year, and it is a general understanding that it was executed by the criminals, but also assassination plot targeting one of the CEOs of Rheinmetall. Rheinmetall is a German defense company who is main producer of military aid to the Ukraine. Different fires and explosions in warehouses have taken place in England, in Germany, in Poland. There have been attacks on the railways in Sweden and in Czechia. There is a suspicion of Russian activity attacking or trying to attack the planes. So we had in Europe few burnings in the warehouses in Birmingham and Leipzig. The packages which were supposed to be in the DHL planes actually took fire in the warehouse, and lately the incident with the DHL plane in Lithuania, but the investigation is still going on. Russia is not caring about attacking also the civilian facilities, for example, IKEA warehouse in Lithuania. There have been attempts to attack water plants in Sweden, in Finland, and Poland. I put specifically separately because Poland is a major logistical hub to the Ukrainian aid. And in Poland, it's basically we have every week or at least once a month news about some Russian agents arrested. So, and if we are comparing this to the Soviet Union sabotage doctrine, then actually it's pretty much correlating with the list I provided before. So we see that there is a doctrinalized systematic target list for the adversaries' different targets. Next. And specifically, I brought out the current activities on the Baltic Sea. So we actually had at the end of the last year, when the Chinese-owned and Hong Kong-flagged vessel New Polar Bear damaged the Baltic Connector gas pipeline. And just recently, again, Chinese ship suspected of deliberately dragging anchor and cut some of the cables. So it's still under investigation, and it's not possible for 100% certainty to say that it was a deliberate act, but as one of the Estonian security experts said, that it would be a world record of dragging the anchor under the seabed. So it's quite suspicious. Next slide, please. So, and what can be responses to those activities? Of course, we cannot respond to Russian activities symmetrically. First and foremost, there is a need to make all the activities public. Estonia has practiced this for decades already. Our internal security service has publicized all the Russian activities in their yearbooks, and it's also important that the public is aware of different modus operandis what Russian agents are doing. Also, there is a need to enhance national and local counterintelligence. The problem is that Russia wants to hide those sabotage acts as something as a small criminal activity, and of course, if it is a criminal activity, then the police will take the lead in investigation. But it's very important that in today's environment, the police and counterintelligence agencies are working together from the first point. And of course, we need to enhance physical security monitoring. So as we saw on the previous slides, that one of the main targets of Russian sabotage activities is critical infrastructure. So this must be kept in mind. There are some technological opportunities. For example, US and UK are right now developing some underwater drones to better monitor and to better react to the cable or pipe cuttings. The cooperation and intelligence sharing regionally between the countries and across Europe is very important. And as we saw 2 years ago, that limiting Russian diplomats' freedom of movement is quite significantly or quite effective of reducing Russian activities. And of course, when we are considering that Russia is recruiting execution agents from their own diaspora or their own citizens, then limiting visas for Russian citizens who can access European Union is also something to consider. And I think I stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Marek, for this quite scary and concerning overview of Russia's activities on the physical side of gray zone activities. I would now, without much further ado, hand over to Dr. Komiyama for his presentation.
Thank you, everyone. Very good afternoon or good morning, wherever you are. My name is Koichiro from Keio University, and I'm very humbled and honored, invited by the ICDS to participate in this webinar. It is relevant and timely to discuss how Estonia and Japan and other Baltic countries, as crucial partners, can respond to the gray zone activities. I believe for most of you, this is the last webinar for this year to 2024. As always, the best thing comes last, and I hope this webinar will be very fruitful for you as well. I don't have any slides, and I just like to share with you a few thoughts. Since I've been working on cybersecurity incident response for more than 20 years, 2 decades. I'm a cybersecurity expert, and then I'm a scholar in the international relations. But gray zone activities can be economic statecraft, assertiveness in space or maritime, or covert physical operation undermining nations' critical infrastructure. However, what is more important, or what is more pressing to us, cyber operation and disinformation campaigns, which mostly happen in cyberspace. As Dr. Nagasako already unpacked disinformation campaign in cyberspace, I like to brief you several concerning cases happening in cyberspace, also various cyber operations. But before I introduce 2 cases, let me start with cyber is relatively new field, new domain. In the 2015, UN member states agreed that existing international law, including IHL, those applies to cyberspace. So we all agreed, even cyberspace, IHL, international law matters. However, how, when, and which law article provision will apply to cyberspace operation remain unclear. And many of colleagues from Estonia knows the NATO CCDCO in Tallinn is leading an attempt to find common ground on how existing international law apply to cyberspace operation and cyber conflicts. Many of our allies, including Japan, Estonia, and many others, many of our allies are blessing the outcome of this process, the Tallinn Manual. It is not yet a global consensus. Still, each country has a room for interpretation. China did not officially recognize many interpretation which explained in the Tallinn Manual. So there's a room for interpretation regarding the responsible state behavior in cyberspace. In another word, there are still many gray zones in the field of cyber. And makes things worse, the gray zone in cyberspace is still expanding. For example, can we call spreading false information to instigate anxiety about certain regime among the citizens of another country, or to try to influence the outcome of election referenda in another country? Can we call it can they constitute a violation of sovereignty? I'm not sure. And what happens when artificial intelligence, AI, is involved in the series of those actions? We still don't know it. While we have many, known unknown, Estonia and Japan, a major player in cyberspace, both of us are early adopter of various technologies, which have brought us various benefit, economic prosperity, and others. The future of both countries strongly depending on the use of technology. We have a common interest in preserving a free, open, and trustworthy internet. I think we should not tolerate any action by any states that would undermine this trust in technology. Here, I will introduce two recent events and describe the course of action that Estonia and Japan should take in response to each of them. First, in November 2024, two subsea cables installed in Baltic Sea were cut, one after another. Our previous speaker, Tauno, already mentioned the BCS East-West Interlink, which connects Sweden and Lithuania, and another one, Sea Lion 1 cable, which connects Finland to Germany. They were both cut. Finnish foreign minister. What was interesting to me was Finnish foreign minister at his press conference. He implied there's even a discussion on whether NATO member states could trigger Article 5 of NATO treaty if Russia is a mastermind of this cable cut. I suppose that was a statement meant to pressure Russia. But it is clear that if something like this were to happen, it would have a major negative impact on internet communication. Not only, for example, countries like Finland or Germany, but that will also affect the neighboring countries. We see similar cases in East Asia as well. Cables run through Taiwan Straits were cut 2 years ago. Well, actually, there were a few other cases. Cables in those areas were damaged by Chinese fishing vessels. And then also we see number of cable outage near Vietnam. And we don't have who's behind those cable cut. And Japan is we are an island nation, and 99% of our international communication relying on subsea cables. The public is extremely concerned about the protection of a cable. One of my research themes is how much physical communication infrastructure is sabotaged in armed conflicts. Even if the physical strength of a cable can be increased, or we could have multiple cables laid to have redundancy, it is still difficult to prevent cable cut. And the only way to prevent this is to raise the cost of destroying it. I want to strengthen normative procedural measure in this regard. Dr. Dennis Broders of Leiden University, he proposed the concept of the public core of the internet back in 2015. He argued for the recognition of internet's public core as a global public good that needs to be safeguarded from geopolitical conflicts, commercial exploitation, and cyber threats or cyber operation. The public core of the internet may include the domain name system, routing system, public key infrastructure. If you are not tech savvy, you don't need to understand, you don't need to remember those acronyms, but we also have a system to synchronize the clock of computer systems. We have, for example, satellite GPS and others, and also internet exchanges and subsea cables are recognized as part of those public core of the internet. If these public core lose their functions, the impact will not be limited to a specific country or organization, but it will spread to multiple countries or the entire world. So Estonia and Japan should call more strongly on the international community to ban cyber attack to the public core of the internet. Any state actor can, for example, steal intellectual property or classified document from their adversary, but they should not harm the public core of the internet. Second, 2 months ago, in September 2024, pagers and walkie-talkies carried by Hezbollah combatant exploded, killing 12 people and injuring more than 2,700. Media reported that a section of the Israeli government planted explosives in those devices. Those are brought into Lebanon. The pagers had the logo of Taiwanese manufacturer, and the walkie-talkie had the logo of Japanese manufacturer. If cases like this continue, I'm pretty sure more and more people will become uneasy or uncomfortable using pager, using walkie-talkies. Maybe that will undermine the trust of Taiwanese, Japanese digital product. Anxiety or fear about specific product could eventually lead to anxiety about cyberspace itself. And to respond this type of mistrust in the cyberspace, the expert committee, actually I was a member of that process, expert committee called GCSC, Global Committee on Stability of Cyberspace, proposed 11 norms. By the way, this group was co-chaired by Marina Kaljurand, a former Estonian foreign minister. It was very interesting. I was struck and deeply impressed with the fact Marina, who's a who's a career diplomat. She's not a tech savvy. However, I was impressed deeply with the fact she knows cyber technology very, very well, and she did the discussion among experts in a very passionate manner. So I still have a very I have a fond memory of working with Marina and other members. But again, GCSC, one of outcome of intense discussion by experts from north to south, east to west, this group proposed a norm. I quote, "State and non-state actors should not tamper with product and services in development and production, nor allow them to be tampered with." So this proposed norm says that while it is inevitable that some intelligence agency or military will tamper with various product, they should refrain from doing so, at the very least at the stage when those products are being designed, developed, manufactured. Both Japan and Estonia and many Baltic countries, we are all global developer, manufacturer, designer of various digital products. And I believe we have a common interest to protect first of all, the business of those commercial companies of respective countries. And we also have a common interest to increase the trust, to maintain cyberspace trustworthy by prohibiting cyber operation before those products are being handed to individual organizations who are the target of cyber operation. So I'd like to conclude my presentation. Estonia and Japan, we should promote two norms that I just presented, and we should work to enhance trust in cyberspace. Thank you very much, and over to our moderator.
Thank you very much, Koichiro, and on the kind of the thinking of how do we shape international norms in the cyberspace. Maybe something to discuss also afterwards. But now over to Ivan, please.
Certainly, thank you. And thank you for making me part of this fascinating exchange. I will go straight to the substance of my remarks. I will be talking about, my presentation will take a step back. I don't have any slides, by the way. I will take a step back and focus on Russia and focus on the so-called Czechist mindset and how it influences Russia's covert operations abroad. And then I will connect that to the broader topic that we've already engaged, which is that of disinformation campaigns. My underlying argument is that there are elements in the Czechist mindset that influence how these operations are carried out, that shape the type of narratives that are involved, and therefore we can already make some judgments or assessments about the way Russia operates in this space based on this background of the so-called Czechist mindset. So what is the Czechist mindset? So this is an often used shorthand for the strategic culture of the Russian security services, though it also applies to other sectors of the Russian government, including the military and the top leadership. Czechist, of course, is also a shorthand broadly applied to the personnel working in Russian intelligence. So what are the features of this mindset? To be clear, there was no official definition of Czechist mindset in the Soviet services. but the services do allude to it under the Russian name of Chekistskoye Myslenie. Indeed, the KGB training often went back to it. They specifically used narratives on the roles played by Soviet intelligence in the Second World War, as well as to the sense of duty of the services and their capacity for initiative and self-sacrifice. This is kind of the almost virtues that the services would attempt to instill on its own members, or at least that's what they told themselves. And indeed, this narrative is present in Russia's ongoing rehabilitation of Soviet leaders. The Kremlin's efforts to revive the legacy of Stalin have brought wide attention and concern, but other figures are also brought to prominence once more. For example, the case of Lavrentiy Beria and Felix Dzerzhinsky, they're both openly whitewashed by the Russian state. To give an example, in 2017, a docudrama called Forgotten Leaders presented Beria and Dzerzhinsky as not only as the architects of the Red Terror and repression, but also as efficient administrators and patriotic leaders. And reportedly, the idea for this docudrama came from the Russian Minister of Culture himself. So this is kind of concerted effort, and it involves a rehabilitation of Russian intelligence services. However, the core of the Chekist mindset is not about the sense of duty, but about threat assessment and foreign conspiracy. As US scholar Kevin Pirelius states, the mindset is defined by, quote, constantly perceiving threats and seeking ways to mitigate them, as well as constantly looking for, and sometimes fabricating, a connection between domestic threats and foreign enemies. End of quote. In this sense, the threats usually connected back to the West, as the Soviet and today Russian services see the West as an unchanging threat. I think a very illustrative example is that of the foreign agent law of the Russian criminal code, which was instituted in the context and in response of the 2011-2012 opposition protests. And this law designates specific individuals and organizations as operating in the interests of a foreign power. For those included on the list, there's not only administrative penalties of different types, but there's a broader social stigma attached to this label. There's, for instance, one study already a bit old showing that media consumers, the trust of media consumers in Russia towards media and journalists and individuals that are labeled as foreign agents, the trust of the Russian public will diminish. So there will be less trust. So that's kind of part of the stigma and part of the impact of this label. So how did we arrive to this paranoid and aggressive mindset in the Russian services? And how did it become so pervasive? As Paul Madrell argues, communist leadership practiced compartmentalization, a psychological process where the beliefs about the world were compartmentalized from new knowledge acquired. So indeed, when faced with internal dissent or domestic problems of any kind, the beliefs about the righteousness of the Communist Party and its ideology were separated and placed in a different mental category from the knowledge of policy failures. And this way, domestic problems could never be blamed on the party, and cases as simple as technical malfunction would be analyzed first as a case of conspiracy for sabotage. So in this way, the external factor, that of imperialist conspiracy, was ever present in the lives of KGB leaders and the Communist Party leadership overall. Despite speaking of the Bolsheviks and the KGB, today Moscow's strategic thinking remains heavily influenced by the Chekist mindset and its paranoid views. As documented by Dmitry Minik, the practice of compartmentalization and blaming domestic failures to foreign conspiracy is still characteristic of Russia's leadership. This applies to the people at the top, the Kremlin, down to the defense and security sectors. In the 1990s, the specter of NATO intervention in Chechnya, either overt or covert, was a fixture of public debate and policy discussions. Moreover, the agencies of the KGB developed a narrative that the Soviet Union collapsed because of foreign conspiracy rather than for domestic issues. Today, Ukrainian sabotage and infiltration are routinely blamed for domestic security failures, most notably this year's Crocus City Hall terrorist attack in Moscow. It must be noted that in this conspiracy theory, Ukraine is seen as a mere agent of the West. The ultimate culprit remains the United States. One quote can illustrate this mindset and its role today. This week, Sergei Naryshkin, the director of the Foreign Intelligence Service, one of the successor agencies of the KGB, was quoted by Russian state media as saying, "We witness divisions and destabilization wherever the West has extended its tentacles." The most striking example is Ukraine. Tempted by the so-called European integration, it has turned into the United States' main anti-Russian battering ram. End of quote. So this brings me to disinformation. Disinformation campaigns are part of the toolkit of the Russian intelligence agencies since the time of the Romanov Empire, and this, as already discussed by my colleagues in this panel. These covert operations are meant to advance Russian foreign policy and often work in concert with other covert operations, as Dr. Nagasako mentioned about DDoS and Marek Kohv mentioned about sabotage operations. Disinformation can be understood as a form of communication meant to introduce deliberately manipulated information under the cover of authenticity. So I won't delve much into the question of definition. I think we all have a baseline understanding. The vehicle for disinformation tend to be concrete narratives that blend true information with falsehoods, thus enhancing the perceived authenticity of the source and facilitating its objectives. Disinformation has been routinely identified as a security threat, as it weakens societies from within, wearing down the stability and resilience of a political system and of society more broadly. So how does Russian disinformation reflect the Czechist mindset, and what implications does this have to international security, for international security? The key message is that many of the common themes deployed by Russian disinformation clearly echo the Czechist mindset in its paranoia and sense of grievance towards foreign powers. Indeed, this is visible in the common themes or meta-narratives in the Kremlin's disinformation campaigns. So specialists in the field of disinformation have broadly identified 4 common themes relevant in the past few years. The first one is historical revisionism, including the idea that Russia played the leading role in the Second World War. Then Russia as a victim and a besieged fortress. 3, the US as a source of global instability. And 4, the European Union as decadent and due for collapse. 2 of these themes, those of Russian victimhood and US villainy, are a direct reflection of the Czechist worldview, as described earlier. These 2 narratives are present even if cases of disinformation, not related to alleged Russian victimhood and alleged Russian villainy. So, for example, to bring an example from a completely different context, in the Central African Republic, Russia has been present militarily, supporting the operations of the government against local rebels. These military operations have been accompanied by disinformation campaigns targeting local audiences, international audiences, alleging that the anti-government rebels that Russia is fighting are supposedly supported and instigated by the United States. Spurious evidence is presented in the shape of supposedly captured US flags, for instance. So the Central African Republic would be an unlikely target for this type of themes, as the country is neither a US ally, nor is Russia the victim of any type of aggression from this part of the world. So 2 implications can be drawn from this deep connection between the Czechist worldview and disinformation narratives. First, the Czechists have a limited scope in the formulation of their disinformation narratives. While they can be inventive in twisting reality, they often go back to the same ideas: US villainy and Russian victimhood. Second, inasmuch as the Czechist mindset is ingrained in Russian security services, these common themes will remain a feature in Russian disinformation. For Estonia and Japan, this implies that Russian disinformation will continue to focus on them, as they are close partners of the US and supporters of Ukraine's self-defense against Russian aggression. This renders the security threat stemming from Russian disinformation into a pervasive threat, rather than a circumstantial menace stemming from the current political juncture. So that is all from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ivan. Very interesting, and indeed, we need to see into the heads of the state actors as well to see how we can respond to their activities. We only have a little bit of time left, and I see that one of the, and I see two questions in the Q&A. I see one was already by James, was already answered partly by Marek. So I would first put to our Japanese speakers the question from Henrik Brax, asking regarding Japanese government responses to cyber and hybrid attacks. Have there been any public? Has the government made any public attributions, initiated sanctions, or criminal proceedings against perpetrators, or any other type of response? So whoever wants to react to that.
Okay, so let me respond to. I'm sorry. Okay. So let me respond to. Could you? Okay. Okay.
Yes. Have there been any public? Have there been any public attributions or any other responses from the Japanese government to cyber hybrid operations?
Could you mute yourself?
Yes.
All right. Let me respond to Mr. Park's question. I already typed few of my responses to the chat. But since 2018, we have attributed few cyber operation by North Korea, and we don't say Chinese cyber attack, but cyber attack from mainland China, group affiliated with mainland China. So there are a few attempts for us to do a public attribution, and then there's no ad hoc basis sanction because of any cyber attack in response to any cyber attack. However, because we see many ransomware cases trying to withdraw cryptocurrency from Japanese private sector. So 2 years ago, we amended the Foreign Exchange and Currency Act. And so anyone knowingly transfer fund to anyone associated with North Korea is now part of the, it's now prohibited by this act. Now, finally, the question is, it's asking if we did a criminal proceeding. As far as I know, we haven't seen any, police or prosecutor to open a trial on foreign cyber operation. I have heard our legal system is not well designed. If defendant cannot show up to our court, it's difficult to keep the trial. That's the reason. I hope I answer 3 of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see that we that we are running out of time. I have written down a lot of questions from my end. I guess that we will have to leave them for the next conversation. Thank you very much for these 4 perspectives from Japan and from the Nordic-Baltic on the Chinese and Russian and activities and the broader kind of thinking behind all this. And as said before, and thank you everybody for listening in, sticking with us for that time. As said, all of these presentations will result in chapters in a collective report that will be published next year. And the recording of this session will be available on ICDS's YouTube channel. I wish our Japanese colleagues a very nice evening and bon appetit for those for whom it's lunchtime.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.